The studio lights blazed down on the iconic red couch of the Graham Norton Show, where Taylor Swift sat poised, her signature red lipstick and shimmering dress catching the glow. The audience buzzed with anticipation, their cheers still echoing from her entrance alongside fellow guests. A renowned comedian and a veteran actor, Graham, ever the charming host, kicked off the episode with his usual wit, tossing light-hearted jabs and setting a jovial tone. Taylor, fresh off her record-breaking Eras tour, was there to promote her upcoming album, The Life of a Showgirl, and share anecdotes about her whirlwind year. Graham began with a playful question about her tour's economic impact, referencing how she could change the economy of a country just by showing up. Taylor laughed, her eyes sparkling, and quipped about her fans' dedication, mentioning the friendship bracelets traded at her Dublin show. But the mood shifted when Graham, perhaps too eagerly, brought up a viral moment from her 2014 appearance on the show, where she confused cricket with rugby, prompting laughter from the audience. The comedian guest seized the opportunity, teasing Taylor about her athletic expertise, which drew a tight smile from her. Sensing a chance to stir the pot, Graham pressed further, asking if she'd ever tried to redeem her sports knowledge. Taylor's response was polite but clipped, hinting at her discomfort with being pigeonholed as the clueless pop star. The audience chuckled, unaware of the tension brewing beneath her composed exterior. As the segment progressed, Graham pivoted to her personal life, a topic she famously guards. He referenced rumors about her engagement to Travis Kelce, citing the frenzy caused by their joint Instagram post. Taylor's smile faltered, and she deflected with a joke about her cats, but the comedian interjected with a snarky remark about her serial dating reputation. The audience gasped, and Taylor's eyes narrowed, her poised demeanor cracking. She leaned forward, her voice steady but sharp, calling out the tired narrative and defending her right to privacy. Graham, caught off guard, tried to defuse the situation with a laugh, but the comedian doubled down, suggesting her music thrives on breakup drama. The studio fell silent, the weight of the comment hanging heavy. Taylor's fingers gripped the armrest, her knuckles widening, as she prepared to respond, her words measured but laced with fire, signaling the clash was far from over. The atmosphere in the studio thickened as Taylor Swift's retort hung in the air, her voice cutting through the awkward silence like a knife. She addressed the comedian directly, her tone calm but unyielding, emphasizing that her music reflects universal emotions, not just personal gossip. "I write about life, love, and loss of things everyone feels, not just me," she said, her eyes locked on her antagonist. The audience erupted in applause, sensing her strength, but the comedian, undeterred, smirked and muttered something about drama queens. Graham, now visibly uneasy, tried to steer the conversation back to safer waters, asking Taylor about her songwriting process, a topic he knew she handled with ease. She obliged, explaining how she crafts songs that are easy to sing to preserve her voice during grueling tours, but her responses were curt, her focus clearly elsewhere. The veteran actor, who had been quiet, attempted to lighten the mood with a story about his own talk show blunder, but the comedian interrupted, turning the spotlight back on Taylor with a barbed comment about her fanatic Swifties overwhelming events like her secret listening parties. Taylor's jaw tightened. She'd always been protective of her fans, and the jab felt personal. She recounted how she carefully selected fans for those intimate gatherings, stalking their socials to ensure they were genuine supporters, and how those moments were about connection, not publicity. Her passion was palpable, but the comedian scoffed, suggesting she was playing the saint for PR. The audience murmured, some booing softly, as Taylor's composure wavered. She leaned back, crossing her arms, and fired back, "Maybe you'd understand if you valued your audience half as much as I do." The crowd roared, but Graham's smile was strained, his eyes darting to the producers offstage. He tried to pivot to a commercial break, but Taylor wasn't done. She called out the double standards and how her career is scrutinized compared to male artists, her voice rising with conviction. The comedian, now on the defensive, accused her of being too sensitive, escalating the tension. Graham, sensing the segment spiraling, made a joke about needing a referee, but it fell flat. Taylor's gaze was steely, and as the show cut to break, Whispers spread through the studio. Crew members exchanged glances, aware that this clash was unlike any the show had seen. Backstage, Taylor's team huddled, their faces grim, as she sat silently, her mind racing. Would she return to the couch, or was this the moment she'd walk away? As the commercial break ended, the studio lights dimmed briefly, signaling the return to air. The audience, still buzzing from the earlier exchange, watched as Taylor Swift retook her seat, her expression unreadable. Graham Norton, ever the professional, flashed a wide grin and tried to reset the mood with a light-hearted anecdote about his own Eras Tour experience in Dublin, where he drank Taylor's bar dry in the VIP tent. The crowd laughed, but Taylor's smile was polite, her eyes guarded. She nodded along as Graham recounted his confusion over friendship bracelet etiquette, but her focus seemed elsewhere, her fingers tapping rhythmically on her knee. The comedian, sensing an opportunity to regain control, jumped in with a quip about Taylor's over-the-top tour productions, implying they were more spectacle than substance. This struck a nerve. Taylor's Eras Tour was a cultural juggernaut, praised by everyone from Sharon Osbourne to Meg Ryan for its heart and stamina. She countered firmly, detailing the months of planning, the 149 sold-out shows, and the personal connection she forged with millions of fans worldwide. Her voice was steady, but the passion behind it was undeniable, earning another wave of applause. The comedian, unfazed, made a snide remark about her entourage of celebrity guests at concerts, referencing Prince William and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's appearances. Taylor's eyes flashed. She wasn't about to let her friendships be trivialized. She shot back, explaining how those moments were about shared joy, not clout, and how she valued authenticity over cynicism. Graham, trying to maintain order, interjected with a question about her upcoming album, hoping to shift focus. Taylor began to answer, describing the life of a showgirl as her most vulnerable work yet, but the comedian cut in again, this time mocking her vulnerable persona as a calculated brand move. The audience gasped, and even the veteran actor looked uncomfortable, shaking his head slightly. Taylor paused, her silence deafening, then leaned forward, her voice low and deliberate. "You don't get to decide what's real for me or my fans," she said, her words slicing through the tension. The crowd erupted, some chanting her name, but Graham's face betrayed his panic. He signaled for another break, but Taylor stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I don't need this," she said, her voice firm, and walked off stage, leaving the audience stunned and the crew scrambling. The comedian smirked, but Graham's forced chuckle couldn't mask the chaos unfolding. The studio was a whirlwind of shocked murmurs as Taylor Swift's exit left an empty space on the red couch. Graham Norton, his face a mix of professionalism and panic, tried to salvage the moment with a quick joke about needing more wine for this episode, a nod to his own boozy Eras Tour story. The audience laughed nervously, but the energy was fractured, the absence of the pop superstar palpable. Behind the scenes, producers were in a frenzy, whispering urgently into headsets as Taylor's team gathered in a huddle near the green room. She stood calmly, sipping water, her expression a blend of resolve and frustration. Her publicist urged her to return, citing the PR fallout, but Taylor shook her head, her mind made up. Back on air, Graham pivoted to the veteran actor, asking about his latest film, but the conversation felt hollow, the audience's attention still fixed on the drama. The comedian, perhaps sensing their moment, leaned into the controversy, joking about Taylor's diva exit and suggesting she couldn't handle a little teasing. This drew scattered boos, and the actor, visibly annoyed, countered with a story about Taylor's generosity, mentioning her donation to Trussell's food banks during her UK tour. The audience clapped, but the comedian doubled down, calling her actions performative. Offstage, Taylor overheard the comment via monitor, her eyes narrowing. She whispered something to her team, then turned to leave, her heels clicking against the floor. Graham, now desperate to regain control, brought up a clip from Taylor's 2019 appearance, where she recounted crashing her car during a Rolling Stone interview, a story that had charmed audiences with her relatable humor. The clip played, but it only underscored her absence, the laughter feeling forced. As the segment ended, Graham addressed the elephant in the room, saying, "We hope Taylor's okay and wish her the best," his tone sincere but strained. Social media was already ablaze, with Swifties flooding X with hashtags like #TaylorDeservesBetter, praising her for standing up to the comedian's jabs. The comedian, meanwhile, leaned back smugly, unaware of the storm brewing online. Backstage, Taylor's team drafted a statement, but she waved it off, saying, "Let the music speak." She was already planning her next move, her resolve unshaken, as the show limped on without her, the clash cementing itself as a legendary moment in talk show history. The fallout from Taylor Swift's dramatic walk-off dominated the airwaves as the Graham Norton Show continued, its rhythm disrupted by her absence. Graham, a seasoned host, pushed through with his signature charm, engaging the veteran actor in a discussion about his career while carefully avoiding further mention of Taylor. The comedian, however, couldn't resist stirring the pot, making a veiled comment about fragile egos in the music industry, which drew a mix of laughs and groans from the audience. Offstage, the production team was in damage control, with producers debating whether to edit Taylor's exit from the broadcast or lean into the drama for ratings. Social media was a battleground, with Swifties rallying in her defense, sharing clips of her poised clapbacks and citing her history of handling tough interviews with grace, like her 2019 appearance where she laughed off car crash stories. Critics of the comedian flooded X, pointing out their history of provocative jabs, while others speculated Taylor had overreacted. Back in the studio, Graham introduced a musical guest to fill the time, but the performance felt like a placeholder, the audience still whispering about the clash. Taylor, now in her dressing room, scrolled through her phone, reading fan messages of support. Her team urged her to issue a statement, but she opted for silence, knowing her fans would amplify her side. She reflected on past talk show moments, like the 2014 episode where John Cleese's cat comments turned awkward, yet she'd stayed composed. This time, though, the personal attacks had crossed a line. She texted Travis Kelce, who responded with encouragement, reminding her of their shared resilience amid public scrutiny. As the show neared its end, Graham made a final attempt to smooth things over, praising Taylor's talent and expressing hope she'd return. The comedian, perhaps sensing the tide turning, stayed quiet, their earlier bravado fading. Online, posts surfaced about Taylor's earlier appearances on the show, like her 2022 chat with Bono and Eddie Redmayne, where she'd been warm and engaging. The contrast fueled fan outrage, painting the comedian as the villain. Taylor, meanwhile, slipped out of the studio, her head high, already planning a subtle nod to the incident in her next performance, knowing her art would outlast the controversy. As the Graham Norton Show wrapped, the studio audience filed out, their conversations dominated by Taylor Swift's unprecedented exit. Graham signed off with his usual warmth, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of relief that the episode was over. The comedian's smug demeanor had faded, replaced by a nervous glance at the cameras, aware their jabs had sparked a firestorm. On X, the hashtag #SwiftySolidarity trended worldwide, with fans dissecting the clash, sharing memes of Taylor's steely gaze, and praising her for standing up to what they saw as bullying. Clips from her earlier Graham Norton appearances, like her 2014 cricket mix-up with Kevin Pietersen or her 2019 car crash story, resurfaced, showcasing her humor and resilience. Critics weighed in, some calling her walk-off a power move, others questioning if she'd escalated the situation. The media frenzy grew, with outlets like Newsweek and Us Weekly revisiting Graham's past praise for Taylor's normal demeanor, contrasting it with the night's chaos. Taylor, now en route to her hotel, was already moving forward, her mind on her next album drop. She posted a cryptic Instagram story, a photo of her guitar with the caption "Let the music play," hinting at her intent to channel the drama into her art. Her team fielded calls from reporters, but Taylor instructed them to hold off, trusting her fans to shape the narrative. Back at the studio, producers debated the episode's edit, knowing the unfiltered version would draw record views. Graham, in a post-show huddle, admitted privately that he admired Taylor's conviction, recalling her Dublin Eras tour show where he'd been awed by her presence. The comedian, meanwhile, faced mounting backlash, with fans digging up their past controversial remarks. By morning, the story had global traction, with talk shows dissecting the Taylor takedown. Swifties organized streams of her music, boosting the life of a showgirl's pre-orders, turning the clash into a triumph. Taylor, ever strategic, smiled to herself, knowing this moment would become a footnote in her legacy, another chapter in a career defined by resilience, artistry, and an unbreakable bond with her fans.